So the podcast is back after a long hiatus, everyone. Rajiv was traveling. Rajiv spent most of his time in Rumney, but before he had a preparatory trip to Lake Tahoe. Maybe you could tell us about that first.
Yeah.
And then we'll get into the meat of it.
Well, maybe a little bit of context going into this Rumney trip. This is the 30-second version. I started a company about 5 years ago. It got really intense. I didn't climb for 2 years. And then last year, I met Michael in Rifle, my comeback tour.
Not met for the first time.
Not met for the first time, but you texted me something like, going to Rifle. And I thought, yeah, I'm going to come back. This is my comeback. So with, I don't know, a month and a half of preparation, I met Michael in Rifle, project hit an 11D, sent it. It was awesome. Day 3, popped a pulley audibly. It was terrible, but still a good time. Anyway, I thought, oh yeah, I should...
hung out with a bunch of 20-year-olds.
Yeah, 20-year-olds. Saw Dan Mirsky send a 14D very calmly. That was cool. I saw Nina send Simply Red.
Oh, yeah.
That was super cool. Oh. And thought, man, I miss this climbing thing. And also, we talked about China Beach a lot, and that eventually led to this podcast. So fast forward, about 3 months ago, the company I started shut down. We had a good run, long story, but the silver lining was I thought, okay, I'm going to be a full-time climber for a bit. It's time to really come back. So 3 months ago, I contact Dan Bell and say, hey, I need you to train me for this Rumney trip. I've been basically on the couch, and I'm going to try and project a 14B. Like, get me in shape. And then the trip almost got off to a rough start. So I spent 4 days doing a camp with Jimmy Webb and Hannah Donnelly in Tahoe, which was amazing. There's a lot of bouldering there, but it also almost broke me, like bouldering for 4 days on a hard boulders.
Was it
totally off the couch? Yeah. Skin was a challenge.
Yeah.
Everything was a challenge. I had like 2 kind of complaining pulleys going in, and they were still complaining coming out of it. But I was just thinking about Rumney, tried to be really disciplined with only climbing part of the day, limiting my goes. So I made it out okay. It was an awesome crew. Psych was high. And then I went to Bishop to meet up with Dan Bell as he was making a guidebook around the pollen grains. Hiked all around the pollen grains, just an amazing rest day. That was great, but then I got something stuck in my eye, like a particle stuck in my eye, and ended up in the ER with a severe corneal abrasion. Had to drive back from Bishop, stopping every 30 minutes to apply painkillers and antibiotics to my eye. That was fun. And this is the day before I fly out to Rumney.
Wow.
So I'm like, oh my God, I am feeling very fragile right now. But also it wasn't, it made a full recovery. It was only annoying for the first few days. So I end up in Rumney, and it was all worth it. I was just so happy the first time I saw the route. And then I was in Rumney for 3 weeks and got about 10 days on China Beach.
It's pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Had some rain in there.
It's a difficult time for weather.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's the best time for weather in the whole year.
But
also a difficult time for weather.
I guess just it being the Northeast is a difficult time for weather.
Yeah. Yeah. And China Beach being in the sun all day long is a difficult time for weather. But where to even begin with the trip? It was a great crew. I mean, we should talk about the route. We should talk about the crew.
Do you have footage?
I have lots of footage.
Yeah, we were going to go through who you climbed with.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so I mostly so the kind of the three main people were my buddy Chris Doolin flew out from Colorado. He was actually the first person I worked on China Beach with in Maine, and then Daryl came in. He kind of put in for a few vacation days, and that was super awesome. Nice. And then Nina Williams flew in from Boulder. Yeah, and she'd worked on the route before, and was psyched, and so that was the kind of the main crew. And then of course like Jed was there a few days, kind of trying it, and then some other folks were trying it who we met.
She just did Zulu.
She did.
Yeah,
she did do Zulu, and she did sarcasm too.
Where is that?
I think it's like a really high elevation 14.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's like above 14,000 feet, I think.
Yeah.
On the diamond, right?
Maybe?
I think it is. That's proud.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we should ask her about it when she's on the podcast.
I know. I told people like that she's our first big get.
Yeah. Are you saying you weren't a big get?
Yeah, definitely not.
Or Andrew Palmer or Matty Zane?
No, I mean we're good for sure, but like rock climbing isn't the first thing. Random people don't know me for rock climbing.
True.
Random people might know Andrew Palmer for rock climbing, though.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I'll just say that unlike you and Luke Parody, I did not drop the ball. By the way, I have every intention on inviting her to do a math video. Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
I'm going to try to not take no for an answer. Anyway, I'm going to try to make it happen. I've got this pitch. Like, cool. I pitch it like I'm going to make you look smart. Don't worry.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's a good pitch.
I think so. Yeah. I'm going to San Diego to do a collab with Geek Climber. Do you know that guy?
Yeah, I know that. I mean, I've seen his videos.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Anyway.
Exciting.
Okay.
We're teasing some of the future content that's coming out.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was in really just great route climbing shape and had some very interesting reflections on what it felt like, because she'd been on China Beach either the year before or the year before that, and it was quite different post Zulu for her.
Oh, interesting. I mean, they can't be more different.
Right, but
yeah,
trying China Beach before she had sent Zulu and then after. She's full-time sport climbing now. She's not bouldering a ton and like really going deep on sport climbing, and it shows. Yeah, it shows. Very impressive climber. Yeah. Then Daryl, is just awesome to work things with, and we went full geek, and he had his phone and got pictures of the holds, and we made all the diagrams, and
whoa.
It's pretty good.
You know what could exist?
What?
And should exist? A replica of China Beach in a rock climbing gym. Like, and I don't mean with like rock climbing holds or something. I mean like built out of cement or something.
If there were ever
just like a feature,
route.
Yeah, just like a feature wall, and you can put holds on it and everything, but there is like built into the wall is China Beach.
That would be amazing.
Yeah,
that would be amazing. I mean, the problem with replicas in general is that if you make it, it's hard to make it really exact because it's hard to force the sequence. And if you make it really exact, then you can't set anything else there.
Yeah, but that's like a blank enough wall, right? That if it were built into the features and you just had T-nuts around it to set other routes.
Yeah. It's a pretty cool wall. I mean, it would be a great wall to set on, you know? Yeah, that's pretty cool. So, I mean, there is a China Beach top crux simulator on the Kilter board.
Did you
I thought
set
it was a
that?
bit. I did, yeah.
Oh, nice.
I thought it was helpful, but I thought it was a little bit easier than the crux. And then I got on the crux, and I'm like, oh, this is like 4 boulder grades easier than the crux. The crux is very, very difficult. But it was suggestive of the crux.
Yeah.
Oh man. So yeah. I got ton of video. I had this setup. I got this like portable mic and tripod setup.
Yeah.
Partly because I am in charge of live streaming a friend's wedding in a couple of months, so I was testing that out. But it was really helpful for just doing some video analysis, because one thing about China Beach, the body positions are often as intricate and detailed as how to grab the holds themselves. Like thinking about what I've called the move, that kind of lie back move with the high step on the lower section, everybody grabs the same holds.
Yeah.
So what are people doing as they're unlocking it? They're playing around with body position, figuring out where to be. And so it was, pretty helpful to have the camera. Yeah, what do you want to see? I got some.
I mean, I think we should investigate some video from maybe like the beginning of the trip, something in the middle, and something at the end.
Ooh.
Right, to see some progress. And if you've got Nina Williams footage, that'd be good too. Especially the top crux.
Yeah.
I'm very interested.
Oh yeah, I do have the top crux. I'm
pretty
calling it.
And pretty bummed that the weather didn't hold out for her to send it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is. I don't want to tease anything. There is a chance she might go back. There's a chance I might go back, just because it got so hot at the end.
Yeah, dude. That sucks.
But it depends on lots of things.
That wall's hard in the heat.
Yeah.
I've been there.
So I don't. Yeah. It's
a sun bowl.
black. Yeah. I've seen it in all conditions now. Like it was basically damp, still moist, like seeping a bit when I first saw it, and then it dried out, and it was super clean and super high friction, and then it got really hot, and So I don't know if I have any easy video for the start. Yeah, let me find the start
for this episode.
I got video of the end. Let me pull up video. We'll cut with the magic of editing while I airdrop myself video of the start. But I've got the other stuff you mentioned handy. So let's see. Albums. Okay, so the beginning of the trip, the bottom came back pretty quickly. I did refine it a bunch, but a lot of it is not apparent from video because a lot of it was just how I grabbed the holds. But it was cool to feel pretty strong on the bottom. The main goal for this trip was, I had done all of the top moves in isolation and basically only in isolation. Like I had done only one move at a time in my last trips, and it took me like the entire trip to do the moves, and I could not do them reliably. So I was trying to figure out these moves to the point where I could link them. And so this is maybe the first day in the trip when the top was climbable, and I'm trying to do the crux, grab to the crimp, and then get the foot up.
2 good moves to put in a row.
Yeah. So I got those 2 moves and could not at all imagine moving to the next hold. It was very strange. And I couldn't reliably get the foot up. So one thing that is interesting, 3 months of training, maxing out the rows machine had the desired effect where I could basically lock off as statically as I wanted to get that crimp correctly.
Oh, like the undercling strength.
The undercling felt great. Felt
Okay.
When I had tried the move before, it felt like I was pulling my arms out of my sockets. But this time it felt like, strenuous, but I could static it every time if I wanted to.
When I was training for the route, I set up underclings on my home wall, and I would do maximum hangs on them with extra weight.
Awesome. Yeah. I think that...
But I think doing weights is just as good. As long as you keep some specificity in there some other way.
Right. Yeah. The rows were, I think, pretty key. I mean, Dan had me doing weights in a pretty minimal but targeted way, for the first time in my climbing career. And it's basically like one push exercise, one pull exercise, and then adapted as I had various tweaks and things that you needed to work around. But the rows were the one where I was thinking about this move while I was doing the rows.
Yeah.
And
looking at that, it looks like
worked.
you need that you could stand on your left foot a little stronger.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So the unlock is not, I played around with a bunch of body position stuff for the first couple weeks.
Yeah.
And the key unlock was a combination of things. So let me show you the end state. No, that's the top.
Ah, jeez, it's so beautiful.
It is so beautiful. Every day, I couldn't help but notice. Okay, so this is near the end of the trip. So take a little bit of time to get it, and then I can just reach up pretty.
Yeah, that looks good. Obviously a lot better.
Yeah, and let me show you an intermediate. I think I would like
to look at those side by side and pay attention to the strength on your left foot.
So, let's try this.
Let's get as niche as possible. This is what the people want.
Yeah, there's not really a difference. It's hard to see from the video, but this is what's happening. A couple things. One, I waited I started getting really disciplined with waiting for conditions.
Oh, that's so hard to do, but that's really good.
So hard to do. There were many days when, I had 1 or 2 rest days to regrow skin because my left index was getting just torn from the crimp. Mm-hmm. And then I waited. I did absolutely nothing except for some warm, tension board warm-ups until 4:45, and then hopped on, did 1 burn, and then had another rest day. I just had to be really disciplined with that. On this day, it was a little warmer, but there was enough cloud cover that the holds were not baking all day, and the humidity was super low. So it was pretty decent. So that was one factor, just waiting for the right conditions to learn the moves, because then I think you can do them in suboptimal conditions, but to do it the first time, it really helped to have good conditions.
Yeah.
The second thing was figuring out how to grab this hold.
The left-hand hold.
The left-hand hold. And actually, let me probably have I think it's on the Instagram. Let's find this. Daryl took a video. Beach podcast of the hold itself. Aha. Here we go.
Oh,
this is that sawtooth hold. Yeah. So what I ended up doing was
it's more down pulling than you might think.
It is.
See that?
It seems like a Gaston, but you can actually pull kind of down on it if you get it right. And the reason is it's a sawtooth. So while the hold is quite Gaston-y, maybe a little bit more of a Gaston than in this angle, you got a spike for your 4th finger. You have a little bit of a spike for your index finger and a little bit of a bump for your middle finger. Nina gets her 5th. She gets all 4 fingers here. But what I found I needed to do was hold out for 4th finger on the spike, get the sharp part, and then I wrapped my pinky over it, And then I wrapped my thumb on top. I didn't try to pinch the spike. I wrapped my thumb on top. And it went from being an absolutely crazy hold where I was like, on my first few goes linking these moves, I was just screaming like a madman, just absolutely limit to, and I would scream when I caught the right hand too. Like this snatch move was hard. And then on this last go, like it took me a while to get the hand in the right position, but then these next two moves just felt like cake. I was so surprised. Like that felt easy. That felt easy.
Yeah.
And then this, like, I was just not prepared for these moves. But yeah. So figuring out how to grab that hold. Yeah. The left foot's a little kind of slopey. But that was a super key unlock. Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. It was just like, I think with the top moves, one thing was surprising is beta went farther than I thought. When I first did the moves early in the trip, they were so limit. I thought, okay, they'll get a little bit easier as I learn the subtleties, but these are going to be super hard. And they were still hard, but they got much, much more doable as I figured out how to grab the holds.
So here's a question that I have for you.
Yeah.
So talking about the beta in depth on, for example, this podcast.
Yeah.
What did that do for like when you got on the route for the first time back this trip? Were you like, I know what to do?
Oh.
Did it almost seem like you had been on it more recently than you had?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So
interesting.
So here is like the beta note that I was working from, and I edited. So I've got all this beta. I edited it a bunch. Maybe, yeah. I'll put a link in the description. I got to put this into Evernote so it's shareable. But I had all these diagrams from the past. Daryl took some more pictures, had specific holds, and this let me be really organized with like how to tape. Yeah, this was the key width for taping for that sawtooth crux.
Yeah.
When the tape was wider, like I couldn't hold the crux.
Yeah.
So like all of this beta helped me be very strategic about what I tested. So on every go, I'd probably have at least a few experiments or like things to explore on each section. And then I try to prioritize what I explored and like what variants I just eliminated as like, okay, this is not going to work for me. But to your original question, it kind of picked, like I felt a little bit of loss of fluency on the bottom because I had probably spent like 30 or 40 days on it when I first linked to the break. But I remembered the moves. I remembered the macrobeta, and I was, and contrast this with later on in the trip, I did a go on Butt Bongo Fiesta and Techno Surfing, and I kind of remember the beta on both as well, but not nearly as well. And it was a severe bolt to bolt hanging deal. Like I
on both.
Oh yeah, Techno. I was able to make some links, but I think Nina and Chris were kind of surprised, and I had to reiterate that I was on the couch 3 months before, and I am not in climbing shape. But on China Beach specifically, like I know the moves pretty well.
Yeah.
So that was, I've been like thinking about the moves, thinking about things to try for a long time. That said, there was an entirely deeper level of detail that I hadn't, that I had to kind of get familiar with again, which was how to grab the specific holds. I don't know if I ever had been that precise. I thought I had been fairly precise with how I grabbed the holds, but there was a lot more, even on the lower section, that I learned. Yeah. Let's see.
Interesting. So what about higher than that? Like some things that I'm interested in are like, how did you grab that undercling, for instance?
Oh yeah. Okay. So I don't have video of this, but let me stop sharing. But that undercling was one of the... You mean the undercling for the crux sawtooth move?
Yeah, the one that, like, you
You roll under.
No, higher.
No. Oh, that undercling. Yeah.
Just like
I
doing an undercling, like that's going to be more
so
descriptive.
this is the undercling kind of pocket for the rockover.
Yeah.
So this is one of the first things.
I shoved all four in, and it was thin, and it was really thin, but it was the best way for me to do it.
Yeah, that's what I ended up doing. So I had I tried the back three with the middle finger really deep. I had my last like big finger injury was a collateral ligament strain on the middle finger, so that felt particularly bad. And also I just couldn't recruit with one. It was basically a one finger mono with two fingers crimping. It just felt terrible.
Yeah.
And so then I tried the crimp method, and I found a way to kind of insert fingers like this. So there's like a little bit of a corner, and I squeezed my index finger into the corner and was able to get all four fingers in and wrap the thumb. And that and flagging way over with the left foot and finding a little kind of push foot to flag against that's a little lower than most people's push foot made that move feel definitely repeatable. Like not easy, but repeatable.
Yeah.
But yeah, I ended up doing the four finger crimp method.
Yeah, I remember like doing less than four fingers. Like you can obviously get your fingers in deeper, but then when you try to crimp, if I remember correctly, getting your fingers in there deeper makes it such that there's something in the way of your thumb to get it in the correct crimp position. Yeah,
it's a really not non-ergonomic position, and most people who do that end up kind of open hand back three as they're rocking over, which is kind of compromised.
Yeah, it's funny. Like my right hand is my strongest crimping hand, and my left hand is my strongest open hand.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and so I think like if that had been a left hand hold, I would have like open handed it.
Yeah, that's interesting. We can watch here. I think I got a video of the top. Let's do this. Sorry, Lil.
And you get some time to grab that hold just right, just based off the setup that you're in. Because the left hand you're coming from is like a full pad crimp. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
I remember being able to, it's not so much.
The left hand's pretty good. You can kind of pause there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I crimp, I close down.
That foot switch
I get
hard.
the foot high. Flag over. My left foot finds this little push foot here. And then interestingly, like I think I get a clip from the finger lock.
Okay.
And then the iron cross is thankfully pretty chill for me.
Oh yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I never fell on it, or maybe once. I don't remember.
Yeah. Well, I have somehow never fallen on it, so I'm gonna keep that streak going. Yeah. Turns out being 6'1" + 4 has its advantages on the top section, not on the lower section, but on the top section.
I would imagine not.
Yeah. Speaking of the iron cross, you want to see Nina's iron rose beta?
Yeah, this is one of the most interesting things for me.
Yeah. So there's a little bit of background for this beta. I worked on the route. Maybe you were working on Live in Astro as well when Charlotte Durif was working on China Beach, and she unlocked something, but I don't know exactly what she unlocked. And then Alex Waterhouse sent it with some unknown alternate beta that did not involve the iron cross.
Can we get in touch with him?
I will get there. He is a fan of the podcast. He follows the podcast.
Great. Yeah. That's great.
So we did get in touch.
Does he want to do a math video with me?
Okay.
Alex Waterhouse, if you're out there.
Maybe Alex Waterhouse math video. So then Nina had unlocked something in her previous trip, but she didn't exactly remember what it was, and she didn't really have footage of it either. So part of what she kind of vaguely knew there was a sloper somewhere that she used. So part of the first session or two on the trip was figuring out her top beta, and she figured it out. And it is ridiculous. So this is going to start from the T hold, so left hand in that kind of weird hold, and then right hand in the finger lock. There she is. And she's going to, okay. So she goes back 3.
Back 3, yeah.
Yep. She does a really nice
Ooh.
back foot match to avoid the foot swing, finds a push foot. She gets into this thing, clips, and then she's going to go and use the Live in Astro hold and a lot of core tension and Zulo fitness to shake out for a good while here.
Oh,
like,
wow.
Very, very long time she's shaking out. She's really getting stuff back.
You know, now that I've done endurance routes like I hadn't when I had done China Beach, I could see this being something that one would do.
Yeah.
Like back then I was just a full like sprinter.
No, we gotta sprint. Yeah. For me, this box I think is just always going to be too cramped to rest, but I can see it. Okay. So now she goes into this bullshit intermediate, gets a tiny foot that doesn't exist, and does this foot stab to the iron cross hold. Then
she's going up.
She goes up to, she calls it a sloper. Basically, she just chalked a point on that lichen-covered slab.
Yep.
And put her hand there. And then
like
she's going to do, it's like good enough. And then she's going to switch her toe. This is maybe the hardest part. Switch the toe to a heel. And then she does this iron rose to the top rail. And then a kind of a violent match. And that's amazing.
That's amazing.
Let's see that again. I mean, it's such heroic beta. Yeah. It's just like, and she did it pretty consistently too. Like, okay, so she goes over, she gets a higher foot, this tiny little foot, kicks over, Lil Yell on the sloper, tenuous foot match, and then she is at full extension. She's doing a rose move at full extension from a sloper to a rail that's facing the wrong way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty nuts. And that foot that she uses, a tiny foot chip, like she lost one pair of shoes to that foot. Like she's really digging in on this foot chip. So she figured out this beta, and Alex Waterhouse confirmed that that's what he did as well.
Okay.
Said it unlocked a world-class route for him, so he's very happy that beta works. So this beta works on Send.
Yeah,
we know.
I wonder what it is that like Lizzie, Asher, and Mike Patz did. I feel like they might have grabbed something similar, but then just went straight up.
So
or like more up and left instead of this like straight left move. I don't know.
What do you know about like Lizzie and Mike's progress here? Mike has Mike sent?
I don't know much. No.
But he figured out some way to do the top.
Him and Lizzie figured out they were working it together. They had the same beta for the top.
Interesting. I'm very curious. Okay, we got to ask Lizzie if this at all resembles what she did. Mm-hmm. Super cool. Okay. Yeah. There's probably a lot more to say there, but that was really cool to see Nina work that out.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah. She also worked out a ton on this crux. This crux move. So let's see. This is where, I kind of grab this and getting up to the crimp. I look kind of at full extension, right? It feels at full extension.
Yeah.
It feels enormous, right? And I'm 6'1" plus 4. She's 5'2" or 5'3" plus 1. And she's doing pretty much the same thing. She uses a slightly higher foot, but the way she grabs this undercling went through a lot of iterations. Initially, she was grabbing it kind of back 3-finger drag and letting it go a bit to get more height.
Oh, interesting.
And then she found if she gets her arms really straight and just levers in close to the wall, she could get all 4 on. and even the thumb. Do you get this? Do you know about the magic thumb?
Mm-mm.
Jed had mentioned this. John Brock, who was working Live in Astro, he's I think a headsetter at Metro Rock, had some microbeta as well. Kara, a woman from New York, was also kind of working on the crux. She's a little bit taller than Nina, but John was kind of giving, like expanding on this. So when you use that intermediate to get high in the body position, there's a right hand thumb catch.
Okay.
That emerges, apparently.
Oh.
When you look at the rock, you can't really see anything. I can't feel it because I just go straight from the pinch. But Nina started getting this like thumb catch, and then she started sticking that crimp really reliably, and then she started sticking it from the ground reliably.
That's when it's go time.
Yeah, it was really go time. So yeah, several iterations of this beta were worked out.
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay, what should we dig into next?
Do we have more footage of her?
Yes.
Can we get Alex Waterhouse on the podcast?
Maybe.
What do you mean maybe?
We should ask him.
Yeah. I want to buy some of his shorts.
There were people wearing his shorts at the
Really?
Crag. Shout out to Doug, who took some awesome photos and rocked awesome shorts.
How's the podcast? Scene in New Hampshire?
Oh man, that's a whole other thing. Hold on, let me get this video uploading and then.
I like these shorts. It's like kind of a bummer because the climbing shorts I've been using recently, I love so much. So it's hard for me to imagine liking some more, but maybe I would.
Okay, I'm airdropping some more footage of Nina. So one of the coolest things was people have heard about the podcast in Waimea specifically.
Yeah,
we are
like random people.
Weirdly random people. Like people who I don't have their their phone number.
Who you didn't tell to listen to.
Yeah. We are weirdly well known at Waimea specifically, one crag within Rumney, New Hampshire. and it's really cool because people suggested guests for the podcast.
Oh, that's really great to hear.
Always great to hear. Ask for some feedback, like what we could do better. The one thing people did mention is like sound. I think with Maddie's episode, sound was less than ideal. But I think we've got better and better systems for making sure we got good sound now.
Yeah.
And then also some beta. Like people talked about, the people who had sent it talked about some of the things that it unlocked for them. We got some cool stories. John Brock was talking about how conditions dependent that sawtooth crimp is. The spike right out of the break. On his send go, he grabbed the sawtooth and chalked up before coming in to the side pull. Isn't that insane?
Wow.
Isn't that
just because it was so good?
Batshit? It was so good. Yeah.
That's wild.
And so we talked a bit about how, while it doesn't seem like it, that hold is the most conditions dependent hold, like on the route.
Okay. Yeah. I could see that.
Also, there's some alternate beta that John used. He didn't get that undercling stab for the rockover. He found he could do it in isolation, but on red point, he would miss it. So what he did instead is he stayed on that lower side pull and did a slightly more powerful move.
That hold is garbage.
Yeah.
I've heard of that beta before, though.
Yeah.
I don't remember where, but I remember like seeing a mutant European do it or something. I don't remember exactly who.
Cedric Lachot.
Maybe.
It was probably Cedric Lachot.
Yeah. And he probably just like locked it and chalked.
We also, by the way, have you seen Uncommon Ground? Someone finally posted it on. Yeah. Well, someone posted it on YouTube, so it is now available on the interwebs. Yeah. And Joe Kinder's beta on the top is absolutely absurd.
Oh, you told me that.
He like goes to the finger lock instead and does this little like hand switch thing. Yeah. But so it was really cool too. And then just just sharing data among the people who are working it. It was really, really cool kind of community vibe. Oh, and then on the last session where Nina got super, super crazy high point, the conditions were weirdly good. Last day of the, last session of the trip, Daryl was there as well. We had a great session. And then he's hiking out and then yells over to me from Waimea proper, like, Rajiv, it's Dan. So Dan Nguyen was there.
Oh, wow.
And Dan, for those who don't know, Dan Nguyen, Rumney OG, part of Team Tough, he did the first ascent of China Beach to the break, which was China Beach at the time. And we got the full story from him. And it's pretty cool. Like how we could just like splice in that story.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. But that was a really fun, special moment. Yeah. Dan under Urban Surfer, just talking about the
still under Urban Surfer.
I think he climbed a little bit of Whiptide. He also hiked up in yellow Crocs, which is hilarious and very much Dan.
Yeah.
So John Mallory initially bolted up to the horizontal crack. And then we basically had a race up there because we were working together. There had been no 13B up until now.
So this was the cutting edge.
This was the cutting edge.
Yeah.
So I beat him to the punch. Okay, and there was also an English guy named Craig Smith. He was very famous. He was in the, climbing magazine and everything. He was also working on it from time to time. And I got to the horizontal crack. Next day I came up here, I see more bolts at the top. He was basically telling me, you motherfucker, you didn't do the route. Basically, right? Which is true.
This is Craig Smith?
No,
John Mallory. John. But he was working on the route with you.
But he couldn't. The problem is that the first crux favors the short guy.
Yeah.
Right? And he's tall, so he could never do that thing.
The high foot.
Right,
yeah.
That part there. But the second crux favors the tall guy. Right?
The Iron Cross.
The reaching
from the break.
Right? And the Iron Cross too.
Yeah.
So even though he had no business route, he's saying, you get the point. You didn't do the route. Okay? So I called it 13B. He kept insisting and thinking I should call it 13C. But I've never done the B before, and I was hesitant to call it a C and stuff like that. And then what happened was that Joe Kinder came along, and I swear, this is what Joe says. Dan, it's 2 13Bs in a row. I said, Joe, what the fuck are you talking about? It's a 14, man. There's no goddamn rest, but still, Joe, you're high, It's like, and he worked on it for a while before he actually got it. But
was Joe the FA or was Dave?
I think Dave came by and cleaned up everything. Right? So.
But Joe worked on it for a while.
Joe, I mean, Joe and those three guys, right? Joe was the. I wouldn't say not as strong as the other two guys, obviously, right? They just walked up everything, and it took Joe a little bit longer, but eventually, that's the whole history of it.
Where does the name come from?
China Beach.
Who named it?
I named it. China Beach. There was the TV show called China Beach.
What is that?
We saw the first episode.
Right. Yeah. And it's based in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Right. I'm Vietnamese, and that's why I named it China Beach.
Wow.
That's why it's called China Beach. I mean, this whole area is anything beach related, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. But the reason why it's China Beach because I'm Vietnamese. He's from Vietnam. The show's from Vietnam. That's the whole history, right?
This is a moment right now.
Amazing. we saw the first episode.
Oh,
It was
okay.
Rain Day a couple weeks ago, and it was really good.
Yeah.
It was intense.
Yeah,
too.
yeah, it was. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. It's been a while since that show has been on, right? But still, you know.
Yeah.
It's a great movie. Like the first episode in its own right.
Yeah.
It's just.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess the woman that was the protagonist of that thing, she was supposedly to get the parts in the Sex and the City, but she turned it down because she didn't want that part again, and that. So that's what the story I had heard.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
Yeah.
But anyway, that's the full story. why it's called
Horizontal
China
big
Beach.
hole on the right. The top right.
Okay.
Amazing
Yeah.
rat.
Amazing. Thank
And then
you.
the funny thing is that, so John kept wanted to come back and work on suburban, urban.
Yeah.
I could not get on it because I didn't want to have another fight with him. I mean, he's the only guy that could come up here doing weekdays with me, and
Yeah.
I just didn't want to get back. So I had to sit around, wait for him to do this thing, and those kids came up and put knee pads and boom, ran up, and that was lightning bolt went in his head and started using it. So after he did it, then I got it. I mean, it took me 2.5 years still, but
That was the last.
I'm through with.
That was the last big project.
Yeah, I'm through with. I proved that okay, I could do it if I really stuck with it, but it gets boring after a while. Like, what you gonna do today? No, did you do it? No, I'm still doing it. Kind of embarrassing, It's like, after a while, you go, want to move on, right? So
Yeah.
that's a story.
Yeah, that was a great moment. So we'll splice that in, the actual history of China Beach.
Yeah.
And then spoiler alert, it comes from the TV series China Beach.
Oh, the name comes from that. Yeah.
The name comes from the TV series. Yeah. And the first day that Nina flew in, it was raining. We could not climb. And so we watched the TV series. We watched the first episode, which was quite good and very intense. It's, about the Vietnam War from the perspective of a nurse. And it was, and the first episode is like an 1.5-hour movie. So
wow.
we had a little review/reaction video to that as well.
Yeah.
All right. We just saw China Beach TV series episode 1. Chris. How are you? It was
Shell shock.
Intense.
shell shock.
I have PTSD from that.
Are these puns? Are those kind of puns?
No. It was intense.
It was
really
intense.
good.
It was a really intense
Really
war
good.
movie.
Nina cried.
I did cry.
I
didn't
cried a little
wasn't
bit.
crying at all. It was allergies in the air.
Right.
When she held the burning man at the end, the burned man, and sang him a song to his sweet death.
Yeah. But so wait, the premise of the film was from the perspective of a nurse, a female nurse, working in a mostly male, medical base,
Yeah.
pretty much,
Vietnam. If we didn't mention that, it's Vietnam.
on China Beach.
China Beach.
All because we three share a love for the route in Rumney, New Hampshire called China Beach.
Yes.
And it's currently raining, so we decided to watch the
film.
namesake episode. Episode 1 is an 1.5-hour film, turns out. Didn't know.
Yeah.
Like the route, a little bit longer and more intense than you were expecting.
Yes,
Cruxy.
but well done.
Yeah.
Well put together.
Wow.
Pretty beautiful movie.
Yes.
Some classic misogynistic sexy
Very
scenes.
period.
Very period.
It was a different time.
It was a different time. Very period-oriented film.
And
But nothing problematic, just
no,
kind of,
fitting.
Yeah,
ugly
fitting.
for the time.
Yeah. I felt uncomfortable as a woman watching it at times. Just,
Wait.
again, a reflection of the period.
I mean,
Was
I felt
it
uncomfortable as a man
uncomfortable
watching
with
it.
the situation? Like, I felt uncomfortable with the situations.
Yeah.
Or was it the framing? Did you ever feel uncomfortable with the framing of those situations?
What do you mean?
Like, did you feel uncomfortable with the filmmaker?
Oh.
Or uncomfortable like watching those situations? Because I think
I felt uncomfortable watching them, just knowing that those types of situations have happened in the past in real life.
And still happen.
And still happen. Yeah. Right.
But probably not as bald-faced and blatantly
Right.
as they were in the
as
film.
in the war.
Right. But still wasn't that long ago. And so just watching it is like, my gag reflex
Yes.
triggered. But in general, the storyline, awesome. Production
Well done.
value.
Yeah. Lots of helicopters.
Huge set. Huge cast.
Yes.
Big cast.
And good acting, too.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
really good acting.
Very
Yeah.
like deep.
Oh, yeah. It goes real deep on you.
Really deep.
All of a sudden.
Yeah.
Dark moments.
Just like the route.
No, the routes
Yes.
pull on you. Every move is pull on you. There are no surprise, difficult moves. Nice try, though. No, yeah, the juxtaposition of like, it's jaunty and happy and celebratory.
We're trying to find joy and
yeah.
happiness and a bit of home, I think, in the midst of turmoil and bodies blowing up in a riding with limbs missing.
Right. How they have to cope.
And yet they're still playing a baseball game on the side.
Yeah.
Well, should aspiring China Beach climbers watch the movie China Beach?
I don't think that you can actually send it unless you sent the first episode.
I would recommend it.
I'd recommend it.
I'd recommend it.
Just know what you're getting yourself into.
Know what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because we didn't. I didn't know.
I didn't.
I kind of knew.
You kind of knew. I did not know.
I'm glad I kept it subtle enough to trick you guys into it.
Yeah. I'm glad we watched it. I genuinely am so
Yeah.
happy. That was like cool experience.
Yeah.
Well done. You
Go
sent the
team.
first
Will,
episode.
we sent.
We sent
Yeah.
China Beach.
Yeah, team
Yeah.
first episode.
I don't know if we can do a second episode.
Yeah, I don't have a second episode in me.
No.
So, podcast, super fun, becoming quite well known within Waimea only.
Only within Waimea.
Only within Waimea, but I love it. All right, I got some footage of Nina.
Yeah, let's see it.
See.
Yeah, where are most people listening? Not on YouTube, hopefully, because we don't get much on YouTube.
Yeah, I actually don't know. Seems like people follow little clips on Instagram and maybe Spotify.
Yeah. No, you're good at putting it in lots of different places.
Okay, so this was, I think Nina had shared just the top of this video on her her account.
Yeah, I saw that.
Because it's a pretty good fall. But
Yeah.
let's go through. So on the lower section, we're talking about being really fit, sport climbing wise. You know, she's just coming off of Zulu and learning how to rest. And as she goes up into this, she's gonna rest on most of the holds on the bottom. So, yeah. Chill. Yeah, the video doesn't do just how smooth and how detailed she is. So the crack switch, she was initially using the chip that Alex Magos used,
Okay.
the foot chip, and then like kind of, it's a little bit more powerful to get into the undercling.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, she ended up doing it the way most people do it, which is
Yeah. Into the
Going
like
crack.
slot.
yeah. So this is kind of interesting. She clips from down here.
Oh yeah. I mean that's
Yeah.
what's like that's less scary.
Yep.
Oh, and she's
And
doing
she-
something crazy.
Yes. So she clips from down there. She went through a few iterations. She started clipping from down there at first because it was less scary. And then she tried clipping from up here when she got the moves ironed out. And then as the moves got really smooth, she went back to clipping down there because it let her flow through these next moves
Oh,
better.
interesting.
Yeah, so what she does is she grabs the best part with her left hand in the undercling, which doesn't leave room to match, but it makes the clip super chill. And then she does a little like inch piano match, so she can do these next moves. And this move was like, I think took a little bit of work to figure out the best feet.
Sure.
She gets in here, she kind of pauses for a bit, makes a bump, and then the move, check this out. Now she just shakes out a foot.
What?
She's just like resting in the middle of the lower crux.
Yeah.
So that move, she started out doing it pretty static and controlled. And then as she got more and more familiar with it, she started doing it a little bit more dynamic and then started finding these little like kind of restful body positions. And I think her left hamstring was getting, it's really engaged with that high step. And then also she used it pretty heavily for her iron rose beta on top. So she just started shaking out her leg in the middle of the lower crux.
I mean, leg shaking is a very rifle thing because your legs get tired from knee bars.
So she found in this sloper, she can adjust back and get her fingers a little bit deeper into the crack and wrap a thumb around the sloper. And this became a rest.
Wow.
So she's going to like shake out here for quite a while. Okay, so she shakes out for a while, gets a higher foot. So for those of you who don't know, there's a really good kind of lower foot, and then a couple inches higher, there's a slightly smaller but still pretty sharp higher foot that gives you an inch. Comes into the undercling. Boom. So solid.
Yeah.
Like this is on Link. So I mean, let's watch that again. She gets the intermediate and then she straightens both of her arms for the drop and the drive.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, and there's this kind of rotation and left hip pasted against the wall that she refined.
Yeah.
And then she would just go straight to that hold and close down on it.
Yeah.
That this move was pretty, yeah. And then she finds all these like little places to pause and take a breather, like here. Bit of a scream. Does this really nice back match, and then she's pulling up.
Oh wow, she's really close.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
really close. And then she has this big rest here, right? So she was like,
she was very close.
Half a hand move away from getting to that shake.
Yeah, from like having a pretty good shot at it.
Yeah. Really, really close.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I have a huge climbing crush on Nina. The way she climbs is like a lot slower than I tend to climb. I tend to climb really, really quickly. And so it kind of changed how I thought about efficient climbing because she found so many of these little shakes and little places to calm down.
Yeah.
And China Beach is a precision climb. Like you need to grab all the holds well. So anytime you can drop your heart rate and gain a little bit more coordination and precision, it's a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
I'm probably still going to climb it as fast as possible, but it was cool to watch. It was inspiring to watch.
Yeah, for sure. Wow. That was impressive.
Yeah.
It's right there. How many people were trying it?
Yeah. Well, a couple more, thanks to the show. There was at least one person I belayed on it for the first time who said she was trying it partly because she heard a couple episodes and wanted to give it a go. And so that was pretty cool. I got to belay a couple of people on their first ever
that's great.
goes on China Beach.
Yeah.
And reviews were unanimously 5 stars. You know, like somebody, Alyssa described it as, it's just an endless, amazing boulder problem. So that, that just accurate.
Right.
In terms of actively working in it, let's see, there's Kara from
New York?
the gym in New York. Yeah. Jed, still, like, Jed's super close, has dealt with some injuries, getting back to form, knows the route so well, is just very detailed with what he's worked out on the route for himself. This guy, Michael Larson, was getting pretty close, not quite sticking the crimp from the ground, but getting very, very close. And Quebecois climber Gabriel, also, looking pretty good on the bottom, not quite sticking the crimp from the ground. So it was a good group of people. It didn't get super crowded, but because there's a perfect window of conditions, you kind of want to make sure the person with the closest shot of red pointing gets that prime spot.
Yeah, for sure.
So everybody was super collaborative with that
cool.
and working out beta.
And it is it's short enough that hopefully it doesn't get out of hand.
Yeah, because it's not like there are huge rests mid climb, unless you're Nina. Most people are not resting mid climb, so it's a pretty short burns. It's not like massive knee bar rests in rifle.
Right.
But yeah.
Yes. So what's the plan moving forward?
Yeah. So part of a big thing that I wanted to do was figure out what I needed to train. And
so what do you think that is?
So it's a little bit of everything. I feel pretty happy that there was no one thing that gave out. I think the training leading up to it was fairly targeted. Well, it was super targeted. I was training for every move specifically and fairly effective. The thing that I didn't have going in was, my fingers just weren't that strong. I hadn't been hangboarding for very long.
Yeah.
I had a lot of minor tweaks and injuries, and I just hadn't been climbing that much on actual rock. And the way that showed up, I couldn't give that many burns. I sometimes one burn a day, and then I'd have to take 1 or 2 rest days. My skin was pretty thin, so there's a lot of taping. And it just took me a while to chain moves together and grab the holds correctly. Like I was a little slower with that sort of thing.
Yeah.
The amount of progress Nina made on every one of her burns was about 5 times the amount of progress I made on my burns. In terms of the fluency she gained, day 1, she barely made it to the break and was too pumped to clip. Next, and then after that, she made it to the break pretty much every time. It was easier and easier and easier.
Yeah.
And I think I just need to, I need to get climbing again. I did kind of sprain my shoulder on the last day of the trip, trying the techno start, the techno surfing start with a mantle. That was very unfortunate.
Like the part that everyone skips?
Yeah. And the lesson I take from this is I should have kept to my streak of climbing no other routes but China Beach.
Is that what you were doing?
That's what I was doing. Yeah. I would warm up with a tension block, do the beginning, maybe hang, and then work the top.
Oh, wow.
Um,
yeah, that's like Mark Anderson did that when he did shadow boxing.
Yeah, just warm up and then do the route.
Yeah, warmed up in the bottom of the route.
Yeah,
gave it a go or two.
Nina gave me a lot of shit for this. She's like, you have to actually climb other things and warm up. And I think there is something to that in general. But I think for me specifically, being so recently off the couch for this trip, it was kind of everything I could do to put in the burns. And the skin was a factor as well. It was everything I could do to get myself ready to do a quality burn on the route. But I think, hopefully that will change next time I go back, if I can get some volume in. And then in terms of training, I think finger strength will help, power endurance will help. I don't think there's any super glaring weaknesses.
Right.
Just like doubling down on the things I did.
Yeah.
Being able to crimp harder will definitely help movement on the top.
Wait, did you have a finger injury?
I have several finger injuries.
Right now?
Yeah. So I had a collateral ligament strain is mostly healed. Coming into the trip, I had kind of two pulleys, index finger and middle finger, that had been acting up a bit. Fairly minor, just complaining. So I did a lot of kind of finger rehab and just tried to limit load. And they kind of healed over the course of the trip, which is a very new trajectory for finger injuries for me. Generally, I feel like I just overdo it and then they explode. And then towards the end of the trip, I got like another A2 strain in my fifth finger, which again did not get worse. And I was pretty careful about warming it up, giving it a little bit of training and load even on rest days. But yeah,
that's brutal.
Yeah, it was, rest days were full on training fingers, doing yoga, stretching, like foam rolling, lacrosse ball, just everything I could do to try and heal skin. Like I had the full dish gloves, wearing rubber gloves in the shower, a lot of climb on, just trying to grow as much skin as possible because I came in with really thin skin. I had tried to build up a callus on my little finger for the finger lock with sandpaper. That did not work. Like for about a month and a half before I was sanding my finger, that didn't work at all. So I had to tape. And then over the course of the trip, I built a callus even through the tape because it's pretty aggressive finger lock. But yeah. So I guess the conclusions are like just more of everything, more strength training, more finger training, more power endurance. And then the one new thing is
healthy.
I need be healthy. Yeah. I need to be healthy for longer, and I need some time moving on rock, and probably need to send other projects to just practice that fluency again. But it definitely goes for me potentially. Like there was something that flipped this trip where, I can do every section on command.
Yeah.
The bottom and the top. From off the dog, I can do those sections with confidence. That's a huge unlock for me, because I know how weak I am right now, and I know I know I respond well to training if I don't get injured, and so the path, there's I can see a path to sending it, which is pretty amazing. But yeah, and it was just consistently so fun to climb on. Like doing those moves just feels so heroic.
Yeah.
But yeah. And Daryl too. Daryl unlocked tons of moves on the bottom and the top. So that's great. And he hasn't been climbing that much either, and was coming off of COVID. Yeah, he had a second kid. He's starting. His fingers are strong, like he's training fingers, but had no endurance. So we were very focused with how we unlocked the moves.
Yeah.
But yeah, and the hostel. The shout out to the Barn Door Hostel. Brand new. I believe, at least it wasn't there when a few years ago.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah,
Where is
Climber
it?
Hostel. It's up past the Rumney Village store on that road. Like 4 minutes away from the crag.
Great location.
Great location. They built the hostel barn to be a hostel, so it's very thoughtfully built.
That sounds great.
Very
was Nina
organized. No, she was staying at her mom's because she has family in the area.
Did people stay there on the weekends and stuff?
Yeah. On the weekends it gets a big Boston crowd. And it's, just good energy, good people.
Did friend of the show Andrew Palmer come out?
He was not able to, so we'll have to get him next time.
That's too bad.
Working kids, and I think that he actually ended up doing a climbing trip. Was it Chattanooga?
Yeah, I saw some.
Updates
about that.
So,
yeah.
It's not.
He's.
I mean, there are better places to do a climbing trip, like Rumney, specifically Waimea,
where he's done
Andrew and Lily. Yeah, no, he hasn't done China Glide.
Sure. He hasn't done like. So what's that like a move in the other direction? Right.
China Glide. Yeah, it's like going down again.
Because he did live in Astroglide.
He did live in Astroglide. Oh yeah. It's China Glide seems better, right? You get to climb most of China Beach and then that boulder problem from Astro.
Yeah, that boulder problem of Living Astro is. Yeah, I know the bottom boulder problem of Living Astro is fun too, though.
Yeah.
I mean, the straight up routes are better.
The routes are,
The straight up routes are better.
That's fair. Yeah, so.
Yeah, last thoughts.
Last thoughts. China Beach is awesome, and that cliff is special, and I think a big part of that is the people. The people working in it are super psyched and really, really positive and like good vibes. And there's something about the route that's you have to get quite deep in it.
Yeah. I think that cliff
even
is special too. Like, and people.
Yeah.
I mean the general consensus is that people in the Northeast are less friendly, but I find the climbers in the Northeast much more friendly than a lot of other places in the country.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
I'd agree with that. Really, really friendly vibes. And I think that cliff is very much something special. Yeah. It was better than I remembered it, actually, pulling onto the holds.
And that's saying something because people, I think you probably remembered it quite fondly.
I did. I remembered it quite fondly. And then I pulled on and I was like, wow, this rock is even more textured and pristine and beautiful than I remember.
Yeah,
and
wow.
Wild.
Yeah, it's great.
You got to find a project there so you can come back. Live in Astro.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. All right. Good place to call it.
I think this is a good place to stop.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Follow the podcast's Instagram page.
Yeah, we're posting some more clips, and I got some video stuff coming up that I'm having fun with.
YouTube channel. Maybe we could get 100 subscribers.
That would be sick.
Yeah.
That would be sick. 100 would be awesome.
Yeah. It seems doable.
Yeah. It seems possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.